Hey guys, Ryan here from Highland Outdoors, and we're just going to run through a step-by-step guide on how to make one of the best upgrades you can make to any rifle, and that's by fitting it into an MDT chassis. So we've got an MDT XRS here, which we're going to fit to this Hauer 1500. First things first, safety. If we remove the bolt, one, the gun can't go off, and two, it's not going to rattle around. So to remove your existing stock, we're going to go to our trusty fix-it sticks, and we're going to get a Torx T30 bit. We're going to use that to remove the standard Hogue stock. Now, obviously multiple benefits to having a chassis system. You can have an excellent platform to mount your rifle to. It's fully adjustable, fully configurable, and in this case, you're also going to get the benefit of having a AICS magazine system. So that's the old Hogue stock removed. We're also going to remove the internal mag box. So with the XRS, we need to remove these nuts, and that's going to be done with our 3/16 Allen key. So we're just going to remove the T30. We don't need that anymore, and we'll use that. So some cool things on the XRS as we remove these nuts. It's got a completely rigid aluminium backbone. You get a choice of pistol grips. You can have this nice swept grip or a more vertical one, whichever you prefer. Now the second stock screw is hidden right in there where the pistol grip is. So if we just hold on to that nut and unscrew it, let that fall on the floor. So these two screws, they're held captive, so we can put that in position. So we've got our Hauer 1500 barreled action. That's going to drop on into position, and now we're ready to tighten him up. So we'll make a start with this. So it's always a good idea to do the front action screw first, so that goes up against the recoil lug. Sorry there, mate. And then we'll do the rear one up as well. Now we're just going to slacken both of these off and make sure the recoil lug's seated by giving it a tap on the bench and then snugging him home. Recommended torques for these, we're going to go up to 60 inch-pounds, and again we're going to use the fix-it sticks variable torque limiter. So the fix-it sticks, if I turn to the camera so you can see, we're going to go all the way up to 60 inch-pounds. Find the hole. And then for the rear screw, we're also going to go all the way up to 60 inch-pounds, like so. So that's fitted the MDT XRS to our Hauer 1500. As I said, one of the benefits of doing that, we get to use AICS pattern magazines. In this case, it's a 22-250. So what we'll do now, it's a good idea to test fit that the magazine clicks into place as it should do. So this is a 22-250 specific AICS pattern magazine. As you can see, it fits perfectly. So, I'm really sorry, I'll try not to keep doing that. Next thing we're going to do is we're doing a full upgrade on this rifle here, is we're going to install a new scope rail. This is an MDT 20 MOA scope rail specifically for the Hauer 1500. So, included in the packaging are the screws. These look like a Torx T10. So the MDT rails have a recoil lug here, and we're going to butt that up to the front of the action like so. We're going to close our sharp SOG knife, and we're going to get our Torx T10. So with these screws, normally with the Hauers, you're going to put the short screws at the front. These are all the same length. Because of how this rail's been designed, there won't be any interference with the bolt lugs when the bolt goes into place. However, we always trust, but we verify. So we're just going to put these guys in here. Now with rail screws, this is where a little bit of mechanical feel is always going to be your best friend, because it's very tempting to whack these all the way up to recommended torque. However, I always prefer to feel my way onto them and just snug them up. So starting from the front, we'll just feel into it like so. here we go. So we're just going to check again. The bolt goes into battery, locks, everything works as it should do. So next up, we need to mount the scope. And for this, we're going to use some MDT Premier scope rings. These are the high ones. The reason for that is this type of rifle works brilliantly for nighttime use, and having higher scope rings will give you a much better cheek position if you're using night vision scope, and also gives your illuminator somewhere else to go. So as you can see, this SOG knife's making short work of the packaging. We won't be needing that anymore. So the scope rings that we're using for this are MDT Premier scope rings. I'm just going to find the correct size. MDT being Canadian, there's a mixture of metric and imperial bits that are used. And what we'll do is, although we won't be needing this anymore, we will use the Allen key just to get things started. So the Allen key is provided with your scope rings. Ben's going to edit all of that out, it'd be great. And we'll slacken this off. So the two screws, they act as the recoil lug on the Picatinny rail. So I'm going to slot them over like so. And we'll just tighten these up with the short end of the Allen key. It's always a good idea with any scope rings if you've got the cross bolts on the non-bolt side. That way you're not going to catch your hands on the bolts, on the bolt as you're working it, cycling it. You've just given yourself a bit more room, which if you've got large hands like I have, is always a consideration. So let's get that on there. And we'll tighten this. So what we'll do in a moment is we've got a new scope, which is we've got one of the new Maven scopes ready to go for this, and we'll mount the scope on, check the eye relief, and then the last thing that we'll do is make sure all the mounts are leveled and that the scope's leveled and the mounts are tight. Again, you always have to watch these small screws because they like to get everywhere. If you can speed this up to 3 times just to make it look really fast. Okay. So Maven scope. This is one of the RS ones. It's a 2.5 to 15. These are nice scopes, Japanese glass. So we're going to put the scope on. We'll put the ring caps on. We'll check that the eye relief is good on the scope, and then we'll torque everything up and we're ready to go 0. Now, something that I'm always mindful of is making sure that we've got nice even gaps where the ring caps meet the body of the scope ring. It won't affect anything performance wise. However, 90% of shooting is done in your mind, and in your mind, if everything's set correctly and there's nice even gaps, everything's correct and sorted, so you're going to be more accurate as a result. So we'll just tighten these up now as well. Quite happy with where they're sat. So to set the eye relief of the scope, we're going to look at a nice white background, and that's actually pretty spot on. So all that's left now is to get the spirit levels out, level the scope, and then give everything its final torque settings before we go out to 0. So hopefully this has been useful. This is a short video on how to swap the stock on your Howler rifle and put some upgrades on along the way. Thanks for watching.